Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, where I, Anna Woolliscroft, chat with fellow writers and outdoor enthusiasts about how we can embrace creativity and curiosity to live a life full of adventure that doesn't feel like hard work. I delve into exploratory conversations about my two loves in life, writing and nature connection, as part of my mission to share the well-being benefits they both bring. It's wonderful to have you here today. On today's Writing with Purpose podcast, I'm chatting with copywriter and virtual assistant Elspeth Coppock about the joys of being a copywriter, the benefits of walking and striving to achieve a change in scenery. So hi, good morning Elspeth, and welcome to my podcast. Today we're going to talk about imagination, writing, nature connection, and just anything really that comes our way, because as a fellow writer and somebody that loves the outdoors, it's just great to talk about these things, isn't it? So welcome.
Fantastic.
How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. I'm looking forward to talking to you. So do you want to just explain very briefly, what it is that you do for our listeners, our watchers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Elspeth. I run EH Virtual Administration Support, and I am a copywriter and virtual assistant. So I support business owners with their admin needs, whether they need event management, social media support, you name it, I can help. But a key element of what I do is copywriting for clients. So when I say copywriting, that is the text that you see on a website. It's the text you get in your newsletters from a business. Basically, it's any text that you see from a business. So I love writing, and I love writing for clients. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. And as you say, any text that you see for a business, and quite often people, they don't, what's the way to describe it? They don't sort of give as much credibility to the words and how they talk about themselves as they do maybe designing a logo or having images and things like that. So it's critical to actually get that message across, isn't it? So readers can understand what it is that the business actually offers and the solutions that they provide. And I think when you actually set up your business, you did it as a virtual assistant to be flexible with a young child. And I think, am I right in thinking that one of your first jobs was to write a series of blog articles for somebody? You were sort of thrown in at the deep end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd done a lot. What I hadn't realised really before I set up as a virtual assistant is I'd done a lot of copywriting in the past. So I'd written blogs and newsletters and promotional materials in my previous lives in a sort of corporate and charity world. And the first task I was given from a client when I set up as a VA was to write blogs for beauty clinics, I think it was. And I found myself, writing about a subject that I did have knowledge, but very limited knowledge, because every beauty clinic is perhaps specialised in a particular treatment or has a particular product that they will promote and sell. So found myself writing blogs and newsletters for clients that I was fascinated to learn about, because a lot of writing does involve, researching and finding out about what the client does and their products and their services. So I found it fascinating.
And I think that's one of the great things about writing for businesses and copywriting and content creation is that you're able to learn at the same time, aren't you? You're able to learn about a subject, and you learn facts and things that, I didn't know that. So it's an exciting journey for you as the writer.
Absolutely. And you're so right, it's being sort of focused on, as the writer, it could be really easy to write what the business wants you to write, but actually what you need to focus on is what the ideal client, what their potential client is going to want to read about. So it's not only are you learning about the business and what they actually offer, you're then writing from the viewpoint of from someone that perhaps you're not yourself, or you're writing from the viewpoint of their ideal customer. So it's a juggling act when you're writing. And I think that that's something I really value. I really enjoy the fact that it is so different. Every client I work with is is different, has different requirements, has different requests, and I get to help them with that, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Describing it as a juggling act is a really good way of actually getting that point across, because I think in my experiences as writing for businesses, the client doesn't always approach it from the idea.
Yes.
Like our clients don't always approach it from their ideal client's point of view. So it's trying to build that voice of the customer, isn't it? And say, oh yes, you have this thing and this is why you do certain things, but actually why should the reader care about that?
Yes.
And it's
absolutely
kind of in a lot more depth, isn't it, to get it across in words that are used.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I find that it is a creative process, and that's one of the things that I enjoy talking about. So how, sort of, not necessarily for business but just in general, how do you stay creative, and what are those sort of creativity generating processes do you use? What does creative mean to you?
Oh, creative means to me a lot of things. I do perhaps think of myself as a creative at heart. I am to say I'm a musician is perhaps pushing it a bit, but I studied music at university. I've grown up, I grew up playing the flute, and for me that is very much a creative outlet for me. It's something that I love doing. I can separate myself when I'm playing, and it can provide me with sort of a chance to reflect and stuff like that. But I also find that a way of being creative for me is, it sounds perhaps a bit odd, but when I'm out on a walk, when I'm out sort of in nature, that just gives me a chance to kind of review and reflect, and I can often come up with ideas for a client. I can be walking, I'm really lucky, I've got a farm just kind of across the road from me, and if I walk down there at lunchtime and see some cows or some sheep or something, and it just I often get inspiration from seeing what's around me. And so it's not, you can be in the shower and you're washing your hair and you think, oh my gosh, that is the most amazing idea I've ever had in my life. So I think creativity comes in many forms, doesn't it? It's not just a one size fits all or whatever. There's finding ways of being creative for your own outlet, so your own sort of safe space, if you like. And then there's creative ways of coming up with ideas and generating ideas for clients. So I kind of use a mixture of all of those things, sort of outside of my work, but to enhance my work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Creativity means different things for different people, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I think, sometimes you talk about creativity, and many people think that is, sort of creatives, as in, industry creative, so painting, dancing, singing, that is sort of creative. And I think it's probably because it's often referred to as creative arts, but and you can just as easily be creative by applying a different approach to problem solving. And
absolutely,
being in the kitchen at night and creating a culinary delight or something, that's creativity. Really.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
I love the fact that you said about you playing the flute, and it's sort of your time, and you use that to reflect, and that, because that's sort of you being, I guess, a bit mindful and just being in the moment with playing the instrument and what that sort of brings to you. Stuck inside, in these four walls, there's only a certain amount of time you can spend in those before you start getting a little bit stir crazy and getting a bit fed up and just change the scenery and just being outside. And I don't know if it's the fresh air, and for me it's just had a bit of a metaphorical meaning to kind of expand your mind when you're out in the open. The cows and sheep and that, and being able to spot their little personalities as you go, like, it flows ideas and helps to sort of kickstart that creativity or that problem solving or whatever it is that you might be stuck on, writer's blocks, as they say.
Absolutely. So was it last week or the week before, I lose track of time, but I went on a networking event for women that was a walks for women. We're a group that meet up and go for walks kind of all over the northwest where I am. And it was such a lovely opportunity to, one, get away from your screen.
Yeah.
Two, the weather was amazing the day that I got to go. So it was a lovely sunny day. But just having sort of that outside time, it was, it was diarised. I had, it was in my diary. So I knew I had, it was fitting it in. And, the chance to chat to other women as we're walking. And, it wasn't a networking event where, we all stand up for our 60-second presentation. It was a really natural kind of, you just kind of went into various groups as you were walking, and you got to talk to them about what you do, and you get to listen and hear what other local business women are doing. And for me, that was such a freeing opportunity. It was such a creative time, because I actually, it wasn't a case of networking to try and get clients. It was networking just to, to be able to talk to other people that are, perhaps solopreneurs, people that run their own business, and just kind of go, what, we might work on our own. Some of us might do, some of us might not. But it doesn't mean that we're on our own. There are plenty of us. And it was a really creative time in my mind, because I was able to, during this walk, as well as chat to people and kind of enjoy the scenery, it was a real chance for me to reflect on my business, and reflect on sort of how far it's come in a relatively short space of time. But also within that, then to think about, okay, well, in this next, 6 months, this next time period, it would be great. Why don't I explore X, Y, and Z? And that was just a really natural response from the conversations that I was having whilst I was out and about. So I think you can going back to it, I think you can make a creative time out of, whatever makes you tick, really. So as you say, whether it is, making that creative recipe at midnight in your kitchen, or going for that walk, it's whatever works for you, isn't it? So
yeah. It is, you're right, whatever works for you. And do you think that conversation would have flowed as freely, and you would have been able to touch on certain things that you did if you'd have been inside?
No, not for me, being really honest, because I often struggle with sort of social anxiety, and if I'm in a room with lots of people I don't know, and if they're all business people, I know I can potentially kind of shut down from an outward perspective. So I will just very much listen to what everyone else is saying, and I won't feel as comfortable to perhaps talk and open up. But as we were walking in groups, and you kind of, someone speeds up, someone slows down, you're suddenly walking alongside a different group, and it was a really natural, for me at least, a really natural way of being in conversation and learning from others. So it felt quite a comfortable environment.
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I'm quite introverted as well, so I don't like big groups of people, and the thought of going to a big party or having to stand up and present in front of a load of people, just the nerves just set in, and I don't enjoy it at all. So I prefer one-on-one like this, small groups of people, or being outside. And I think those it's just about finding the right environment, the right people, the right sort of culture, and doing what works best for you, isn't it? And
definitely,
I've gone to networking events for probably close to 15 odd years now. I do enjoy them, because I think no matter what stage you're at in business, or even if it's a community event, it's not necessarily business, you can get things out of them. But just that standing up and presenting in front of multiple people, I still haven't got used to it. I still get nervous about it. Whereas I was outside last Friday on a self-awareness sort of intro course with horses, which is something that I've never done before. And I was really nervous. There was a group of us, and I think it was just because it was something new, because the group was great. When we were talking, that part was fine, but actually venturing out into the field with the horses, that was quite nerve-wracking. It was a brilliant experience in the end, and I got a lot out of it. But I think if it had been inside, and maybe it was something else that was going on with animals, it would have had a different effect. We've kind of, I think, moved on a little bit from the creativity side of things, just sort of feeling comfortable about it. But that whole sort of connecting with nature, in a sense, just seems to put you at ease, put me at ease anyway. And,
definitely.
It definitely helps with some people. So, I mean, how when we're talking about nature, how do you sort of perceive the benefits for for you, getting outside, connecting with nature, but just in general as well?
I think that was something that I became more aware of during COVID lockdowns, and we were granted this 1 hour a day where we could get outside. And I live in a perfectly lovely, but it's a flat with my son and I, and we don't have our own sort of outside space. So it meant that when we had that 1 hour, we were really keen for it. We from that point, we started walking in our local area, finding roads and paths and stuff. I've lived here most of my life in this area, and I was finding all these roads and paths that I didn't know existed, which was hilarious in its kind of shameful way. But I think from then and thankfully now, COVID restrictions have eased. I've made a real conscious effort to make sure that I do get outside. I do have that time, again, just to perhaps break away from my screen, time outside of the flat. And I find it's just so valuable, even if I have 15 minutes and I run, don't run, if I go outside and just walk around the block for, 10, 12 minutes, and it gives me that space that I need often. And even on those days when I'm like, oh, I just can't be bothered, or I'm too busy, far too busy to get out. But that's what I'm telling myself, that I'm too busy. But if I go out even just 10, 15 minutes, I come back, I feel refreshed and so much more, such a cliche, but so much more energized, because I've had that time away from the work and I've just gone, right, okay, well, I've suddenly thought of X, Y, and Z that I can do for a client whilst I'm having my little walk. And it's something that I do absolutely prioritize. And I'm so grateful as a business owner that I can do that, because obviously, when you're in what I call normal job, when you're employed, you can't just, I fancy popping out for half an hour and having a walk. Most places don't enable you to do that. So when I took my business full time last year, this time last year, actually.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was one of the first things I really prioritized. It was, I'm going to make sure that I get out every day, one way or the other, whether that's a walk, whether that's me going for a swim, which is another thing that I really enjoy. But really making a conscious effort. And it's made such a difference to kind of my mental health and the way that I view things and approach things with my work. That I can't imagine now being in a situation where I couldn't just go for a walk. I couldn't just, pop out and get some fresh perspective on things. So I feel very lucky.
Just coming back to something that you said before about the walk that you went on and putting it in your diet.
Yes.
It's important to sort of give that dedicated time to that sort of thing and not just think, oh, I'm too busy, I'll forget that today and I'll move on to something else, because it's so easy to do. I was reading something last week, and I quite like the way that they'd framed it. So rather than saying I'm going to go out shall I go out for a walk today, I think it was that it was what time am I going to go out for a walk, or how am I going to go out, So it wasn't a case of shall I or shan't I do it. It was more of a mindset of I am going to do it, but when am I going to do it?
And when and where kind of situation.
Today. So it's going to get done today. It just depends when and where. And I think as business owners, sort of, small business owners, freelancers, it's kind of easier for us to be able to plan our day around all those sorts of things, because we can get before work, during lunch, in the afternoon, after work. It's a bit easier sometimes, I think. And as well, people that again are employed that might have long commuter journeys, it's difficult to be able to do before and after work as well. Suddenly your day is just sort of taken up of work and nothing else. And it is important for me. I believe that it's not necessarily a case of getting a life work balance, saying, but that it's just life and work is part of it. And you
absolutely
need to what you do and find these ways, and creativity processes, walking outside in nature, connecting in some way is all part of finding those things that work for you so that you can enjoy
yes
and work being a part of life.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, yeah, it's not something I take for granted, having, worked in sort of education and charity and corporate world before I became a VA, and kind of being restricted in that sense of the hours that you were expected to work, and sort of as you're right, the commute and stuff like that. And I find that now that I am self-employed and that I can fit these things in, it means that I do recognize I'm far more productive after having spent time outside. So I will, as all freelancers and self-employed, you don't work traditional hours. You work when works for you, or what works around your life. And that's definitely something I have established and realized really whilst being self-employed. So I feel very lucky that I can do that, definitely.
What's your earliest memory of writing, and when did you?
That is such a good question, and I don't know why, but I genuinely thought this popped into my mind a few days ago. So I have honestly always loved reading. I'm, the pile of books next to my bed is just growing.
You've got about 10 on the go at the same time.
I absolutely, genuinely love reading, and I've always loved writing. Now, when I say always, I mean from high school age. I remember at primary, it was not something, under 11, it was not something that I really enjoyed. I couldn't tell you why, but I do have this vivid memory of, I must have been in what we would call maybe year 1 or year 2. So what's that make you, 5, 6 or 7, that kind of age. And it was obviously around Halloween, and we had to write a poem, a spell poem. And I remember, it's so weird what you suddenly remember, isn't it? But I remember everyone else in my classmates just got this, it's only a 4-line little thing we had to write, done and dusted, and I just sat there and I was completely blank. I just couldn't come up with anything, and it stayed with me. But I remember in high school, I loved English. That was one of the subjects I really kind of warmed towards, and we'd have a lot of essay writing tasks at the high school I was at, and I would always produce pages and pages for these essays. So I'd write, I'll be honest, I wrote too much, and it probably wasn't the best quality because I was a teenager. I was just trying to get stuff out on paper, but I always really enjoyed that. And so it's funny how life kind of goes full circle or develops, depending on how you look at it, that I get as part of my, I'm so honored that I can say as part of my job, I get to write. I mean, it's such a privilege. It's such it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. And I've got a lot to learn. I'm not standing here saying I'm the best writer you'll ever come across, but I am someone who's really passionate about it, and someone who is always learning and developing skills as we go on. And so writing is something I just love. If I could write all day every day, I would be a happy lady.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different approaches, isn't there, to writing? A lot of different techniques and things like that. Do you ever do morning pages, or do free writing sort of for yourself? With you saying,
yes, I do.
You were in high school, you just wrote and wrote.
Yeah, so not sort of the morning pages, but I do a gratitude journal every day. So I write it. I try and write at least 10 things every day that I'm grateful for. And then from that will often come kind of what I call free writing. So I might pick one of those points and just start writing about it randomly. And it's only for me. It's only going to be me that sees it. Or, I could be exploring a topic for a client, and it gives me kind of that light bulb moment, and I will, in my own time, then go off and just research it, find out about it, and write about it. And again, it's for my benefit only, but I love doing that because it just gives you that chance. You're not restricted by what a client would like or what you feel the client would like. It's just for your own benefit, really. So I really love doing all that.
Have you got anything sort of takeaways from either for people that might come to write for their business and they're stuck on ideas, any sort of techniques that they can do. I mean, we've talked about going outside and using that, the fresh air and that time within your day to, help to kickstart things. But is there anything, sort of one thing that you'd like to give as a takeaway for
I guess for me, for a takeaway from our lovely chat, is that if you are in an office environment, I've spent my life working in various offices. If you're in an office environment and you've been tasked to write a newsletter, a blog, edit the website, and you're really, really stuck, my sort of advice would be, maybe you can't just go for a walk because of the nature of the environment that you're in. But if you are able to step away from your screen, go and look out of the window if you're able to, if you've got windows where you work. Go and grab yourself a cup of tea, go and walk down the corridor. Just give yourself that physical distance from your screen, and you'd be amazed at what might start to flow. It might just be, you suddenly think of how to lay out the work that you're doing, or it might be that you get one word that pops into your brain and you're able to incorporate that. But I think a key factor is give yourself that space. And I'm not saying that that's going to be easy if you're in an employed environment where it's, you are restricted, but however that might look and feel for you, try and give yourself that space, and you'd be amazed really what happens.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that the space is very crucial there, and I think the space can be just simply getting up and moving away. And almost like the movement of your physical body helps the movement of your brain as well. It's in your mind and your sort of psyche to get things starting to move, but also space within your day and not having to be busy, cramming in the day, sitting, eating your lunch at the desk. I mean, I might still do that sometimes, to be fair. I try not to work at the same time. I might watch a video or something like that, and or I'll put some music or something like that on, and it's mainly just because I like looking out the window and it's easy at my desk.
Definitely.
Work and eat lunch at the same time. So creating space and whatever that looks like is a brilliant recommendation. Thank you.
No, thank you.
So thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna.
We'll share the notes of how people can connect with you and find you in the show notes. But do you want to sort of just say how people what's the best way that people can connect with you to learn more?
Yeah, of course. So there's loads of ways. My website is www.ehvas.co.uk. I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn. So, but we'll get it all out on the show notes. It'd be lovely to connect with people. But thank you so much, Anna, for having me. It's been brilliant to chat.
It has. It's been really good and useful as well. A lot of takeaways, I think.
Good. I hope so.
For me too. So it's been super. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together: writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.